Okay, we're finishing up the bottom of the test review, and then we're going to continue on in the back with the first couple problems on the back sheet. So these problems are solving the rational equations. So these ones are going to be in 3.4. We already did a video on 3.4, so check those out if you need some more examples and maybe a slower kind of explanation of what's going on here. There's a process that I go about doing these, and that's to find a common denominator, just a common denominator, and then I multiply it in the numerator for every one of the numerators of each of the fractions. So let's find the common denominator between a squared and a. It's just going to be a squared, because a, if I multiply by a, I get a squared. So I take that common denominator and multiply it in the top for each one of the fractions. So I get 5 times a squared over a squared minus a squared times 1, which is a squared, over a, equals, and then 1 times a squared is a squared, and then over a squared. So now we can simplify this. The a squareds cancel out, and I just have 5 minus, and then one of the a's cancel out. So 5 minus a equals, a squareds cancel out, so it equals 1. So if I subtract 5 from both sides, I get negative a is equal to negative 6. Divide by negative 1, and you get your answer, a equals 6. And then just remember to check for extraneous solutions, and to do that, just check the domain. So for the domain, a, the only way that it can break any math rules is if a is equal to 0, so a cannot be equal to 0, which it isn't, so this one checks out. Okay. Let's find the common denominator here. So 1 is really 1 over 1, so we have a plus 6, and 1, so obviously the common denominator is just going to be a plus 6 for that one. So we multiply that in the top for all these. For this one, we get a plus 6 times 1, which is a plus 6 over 1 equals, and then it's going to be a squared plus 6a plus 5 times the common denominator, a plus 6, all over a plus 6, and then plus 1 times a plus 6, which is a plus 6 over the denominator, a plus 6. Then, cancel the stuff out as you can. A plus 6's cancel out there and there. So this one just gives me a plus 6 is equal to, then this quadratic, a squared plus 6a plus 5. And then plus a plus 6 over a plus 6 is just 1. So let's try and combine as much stuff as possible. So a plus 6 is equal to a squared plus 6a, and then 5 plus 1 is 6, so plus 6. Then we subtract an a from both sides. So we get 6 is equal to a squared plus 5a plus 6. Then we subtract 6 from both sides, and we get 0 is equal to a squared plus 5a. Okay, now let's factor this. I'm going to move it over here so I have a little more room. So 0 is equal to a squared and 5a both have an a, so I'm going to divide that out. So a times parentheses a plus 5. And then solving it, we just set each of the factors equal to 0. So a equals 0 is one of my solutions. And then a plus 5 equals 0 means that a equals negative 5. So a equals 0 and a minus 5 are my two answers. And let's make sure that the domain doesn't turn those into extraneous solutions. Our only denominator is a plus 6, so I just got to make sure that that can't be equal to 0. So if I subtract 6 from both sides, a cannot be equal to negative 6, which it isn't. So for both of these cases, they check out. All right, so that's number 11 and number 12, solving and finding the extraneous solutions. Once again, if you need a couple more examples of those, they're going to be in 3.4. All right, so now I guess we'll make another video for this word problem, and then a last video for these couple graphs that we have. All right, so that's it for this one.